Good morning, my loves. Good morning, my loves. I'm going to share this real quick. So for those of you who end up catching the replay, who weren't on live, there's always good information that comes through on these little chats. So if you feel drawn to watch the whole thing, amazing. Oops. Let me know you were here, where you're watching from. Let me share this into my group. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Oh my gosh. So we have made it through the first eclipse of this little eclipse season that we've entered into. I would love to know how everybody is feeling. How are you doing? It's been an interesting journey. Yesterday was pretty intense for me. I actually woke up super early, right when the eclipse was beginning. Actually, probably a little bit before when the eclipse, because this eclipse it felt short to me. I don't know why, and maybe it's just because of the time feeling weird, but it felt shorter to me. But anyway, I woke up a little bit before the eclipse began, and I just woke up in intense grief, like intense grief that I woke up into. And I knew what the grief was. I knew what I was purging. And like I had mentioned to you guys, I have been reconciling, and I know a lot of you guys have been reconciling too. So anywhere where I didn't get an opportunity to grieve or heal or do something, you know how I talk about we have to grieve our potentials and the things that we didn't get to do as well. It's not just about grieving the physical loss or an actual loss, but a potential loss as well. So we have to remember that we are allowed to grieve potential losses, the things that we didn't feel like we got to do. So in my sleep state, my dream state, I've been going through and it's like I've been redoing things, right? So had opportunities to do things that I didn't get to do. And it's been very much a real process. Like I can tell you guys, it felt very physical. It felt very real. It felt very tangible. And that means that, because it is real, right? We astral travel, we go to these places. And I see when I'm in my dream state, I can tell if I'm in the past or if I'm in another dimension or another timeline by the lens. And what I mean by that is that, for example, if I'm in a past, I keep using quotations because time doesn't really exist, but if I'm in a past life, everything looks like if you put rose colored glasses on, everything looks tinted rose. Well, when I'm in the past, everything looks tinted this red clay color. And when I'm in another timeline or reality, another potential possibility, it's almost a grayish color. It's not that I see everything in gray like black and white, but it has a grayish tint. So this is the cool thing about when you learn how to read your own energy and what things mean to you when you build your own dictionary, because the best readers out there are the ones who have taken the time to build their dictionary, who have took the time to read their body and know how to do, what everything means. And so when they see those things, they can easily interpret, this is what this means, this is what that means. And so for me, I've been going not so much into the past, into past lives, but I've been going into alternate realities, and I've been going into other timelines where the potential that I didn't get an opportunity to play out is actually played out in that timeline, or was played out in that timeline, and I'm getting to experience it. And it's so real and it's so tangible. So yesterday was a very intense day for me, because I just woke up in that intense, good morning, Jennifer, in that intense grief. I mean, like woke up sobbing, shaking, the whole 9 yards. And most of the day, on and off, even when I didn't know why I was crying, I would just start crying and it would just pour out. And, it's important that we don't always go seeking a story when we're emotional, because sometimes we just need to release, and we don't need to have a reason to cry or a reason to be angry or a reason to be happy. We're always trying to label things and associate things and connect the dots, and that's a very human aspect of us. And so sometimes we just need to move the energy and release it and allow it to flow. And we don't always need a story to go with it, So then, now that we got some people hopping on, you guys can decide what you guys want to talk about today. So you can post your questions below if you want to talk more about dreams, if you want to talk about your spiritual gifts, the energy, development, trauma healing, whatever you guys want to talk about. We can start that conversation and see where it goes. And then yesterday, even though I was feeling that yesterday, so feel free to post your questions, you guys, while I'm chatting. I led my Portal of Potential VIP membership through an alchemizing journey. So for those of you who don't know, I have a modality known as the Purification process. It's a very intense healing that heals mind, physical body, and realigns it in your DNA and restructures it in your DNA. It's not just a Band-Aid energy healing. Like, we are getting into the DNA and restructuring it when we do these journeys. So I used that modality in yesterday's journey. And so we tapped into the body to find the unconscious blocks. And this was something that I've done on myself. So anything I lead anyone through, it's because I led myself through it, or my guides led me through it, and it was amazing. So we tapped into where your unconscious blocks that are keeping you stuck in patterns are. I found a really deep pattern in my shins before I led my group through this. And it literally, the clarity that came from it and the changing of the energy, the alchemy of it was mind-blowing, the results. And so I was so drawn to lead my group through it. So we did that yesterday. We led the group through tapping into their body and finding those unconscious blocks and limitations and patterning. And then we took them into a sacred temple and to their Akashic record, and they received so much wisdom. And we went through the purification process, and the feedback was transformational. So that is available on my website. I'll probably post a link somewhere. I think I can do it in the comments. I don't know how that shows up on the different platforms. I'll just post it in case people always ask me after the fact if they can just purchase the one thing. So you totally can. It's the same price as the membership though. So if you want to join the membership and get all the bonuses from the membership, you can do that as well. Danielle, we're going to remove you. We don't solicit on my things like this. This is not okay. I'm going to remove her. There we go. So anyways, you can buy the energy healing journey by itself, or you can join the membership and get all the extra bonuses with it as well. Jennifer says, I was physically abused as a child and emotionally and physically abused as an adult. I'm in a relationship now, and all of a sudden lately I've been scared around men, like even men I don't know. Well, your perpetrator of your childhood abuse, was it a man? And as a child, when you were abused, was it a man? I mean, we kind of have to look at the connection there. So a lot of people, with all the sex trafficking talk that's out there and the things that are being revealed and being put out, that's triggering a lot of people's sexual abuse. It triggered mine. It brought mine to the surface. And a lot of people don't know that I was sexually abused as a child, because my perpetrator is still very much alive. So what that's telling you, Jennifer, is that you need to do the work to heal. It's helping you. And I know that sounds weird to say, but it's triggering when you're around the men. It's triggering that energy and bringing it up to the surface. Remember, when we're triggered and we feel that energy intensely, it's because it's been moved from our lower dense body in our chakra system, the lower part of our body. It's been stirred up and brought up to the surface. So when we start to feel that trigger, it means that we're ready to heal that. And so it brings it up to the heart space. I thought I had worked through it, but suddenly it just rushed to me like it was little again. So I have to do more healing work. Absolutely, you have to do more healing work. Especially with big T traumas, it only is healed in layers. It's healed in layers. It's healed in layers because there's so much of it that you probably suppressed and locked into your body. You probably disassociated, as most abusers or abuse victims do when they're in the middle. Good morning, Salim. I know for me, when I was being abused, I disassociated. I was out of my body. And that's why the body work, like what we did yesterday, or any kind of body work, is so important, because we suppress meaning compress traumas and triggers and hurts into our physical body. And so it comes up in layers. It comes up in layers to be released, because if it all came all up at once, it'd probably be too much for you. So you need to get down and deep into it. So, and it doesn't mean you have to sit and do separate work, but that's why the work that I teach in my courses and my mentorship is the way that it is. Because for me, I believe that you can heal anything in the present moment. It's not about going back into the past. It's not about digging that up. Sometimes we need to go there to dig the energy up for you. But for the most part, when you're triggered, it's about knowing the process of how to change that energy in that moment, how to reprogram you in that moment every single time it happens. And so that's what I would suggest that you do. And I'm not going to go into how, because then I'd basically be giving away my secrets in my courses and private mentorship. But that's what you need to do, is in those moments of that trigger, you got to change the energy every single time. And you have to let go of the resistance of not wanting to feel it. Because when it's triggered, when you feel that, if you're resistant at all, or start to freak out and be like, oh my God, what's happening? And you're in resistance. So you want to be in acceptance of, this is here, it's uncomfortable, but I'm going to feel it all the way, right? Love yourself through it. Do the work to reprogram it in each of those moments. But anything we're in resistance of, we're pushing away from ourselves. We don't want to feel it. And we just start unconsciously compressing it. Yeah, you got to change the energy, my love. Breathing through it. If that's all you can do, don't feel bad about that. If that's all you can do in a day is to breathe through it, then breathe through it. I mean, sometimes, we know it takes courage to walk this path. It just does. You have to have courage, because it's hard sometimes. It feels hard sometimes. And that's our human aspect. We just have to recognize that. But yeah, once when you're breathing through it, what you're doing is calming your nervous system and helping you get out of fight or flight. But then you got to actually do the work to reprogram it. And this is why the most spiritual thing we can do is be human, because we're here to have a physical experience. That's why we chose to come here. At the very across the board reason why we are in these physical bodies is because we want to have a physical experience, a physical separate experience. That's why there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. There's no real lessons to learn at the end of the day. The very basic understanding, the very quantum understanding is we're here to have a physical experience. And when we understand that, we realize that experiences aren't good or bad, and we really don't need to have the fear. The fear is programmed into the human. And so this is what I had a message come through last night. I'm just going to read it to you guys, because it's like we already know this. Some of us know this. It was just the way that it came through. It was so interesting. History will repeat itself over and over again in a time-space continuum until we reach a new level of love. Basically, until the collective rises in frequency to that next level, And when I say love, this is when we are entering into 5 and the 5th dimension and beyond. The 5th dimension still holds form, by the way, A lot of people say that it doesn't, but it actually does. 5D does hold form, but it's not so tangible that it can't be changed with a quickness. But the interesting part about this was someone asked me on the last chat, is this the end of times? And I think that this is why this message was triggered, because at the end of times, what they were coming in and telling me last night was in 2012 was the end of time in the way that we know it. Time has always felt very constrictive and tangible and real because the humans created it, right, as a way to have some type of order in this journey. It's useful. But in 2012, we ended time as we know it. And time from 2012 on became more of a concept. And it came more of a fluid thing that, ask anybody, right? Time feels so different now. Speeding up. Good morning, Julie. Speeding up, slowing down. Time just feels so different. How many of you guys lose time now? How many of you guys are like, what day is it? What time is it? What year is it? You feel like things just fly by or things are going super slow. So that was when she said that, I went through what is this? Sorry. I hate to kill a bug, but can't be crawling on me. So I went through a physical understanding of it, but they came through and they said, a lot of people are talking about history repeating itself. And it's because we are the human. Now, this is where it gets tricky. So let me read the rest of this. So the human body is an AI. This is going to be metaphorical, but it's really not metaphorical at the same time. Look at the Tesla. The Tesla is a self-driving car. It doesn't need a person, right? It isn't. I mean, it needs a person to get in it, right? But you don't have to actually do anything. You don't, as the human gets in the Tesla, you don't have to steer it. You don't have to do all the things that you do in regular cars, okay? The human body is the Tesla. The human body is an AI. It learns through experience. It learns through bumping into things, limits and blocks, and it's programmed through your lineage. It evolves and is programmed through your lineage of what your parents did and their parents did. It's advanced enough that the human body can operate without the soul being in the driver's seat, right? The soul still needs to come in the body, but the soul doesn't have to be the driver. It can drive on its own and learn as it goes. But it's going to be that unconscious programming. It's going to be whatever the computer has learned as it's gone. Okay, that's the AI technology. The more the soul is expressed through the physical body versus the body on autopilot running off generational trauma, when we start to express through our soul in our physical body, we are stepping outside of time. That's why we feel like we've lost time. The human AI is not operating as much as the soul is. So when you start to awaken, what they said was, when you have your awakened moments and then you go back to sleep, right? Or your soul steps out of the driver's seat, all of a sudden you feel like you've lost time. You're like, what just happened? Where did I go? You lost things, right? If you look at the Disney movie Soul, you know how he's playing the piano and he goes into that space? It's like he was there, but he wasn't. He was somewhere else. The soul was driving his human car, his human body. And that's the goal. The goal, when we become enlightened, is for the soul to fully be in the driver's seat, to have the experiences that it wanted to have. But what happens is the human AI is driving most of the time. And so we go back through as we're awakening, because once you're never fully awake until the soul takes over. So if you look at someone like Eckhart Tolle has, his soul is completely driving. Look at how he speaks. Look at how he operates. His soul is driving his vehicle. He has a very different experience of this world. So as long as there's a majority who are allowing their AI generational programming to run their well of all knowing, their Tesla, their body, we will be looped in a time-space continuum, because that's what it is. When we come into this experience, we enter into a time-space continuum where we just repeat over and over again the same stories a new way to evolve and learn about ourselves. The human body is what's ascending, right? I've talked about this a lot. The human body is what's ascending. And by ascending, what we're doing is changing that carbon dense generational programming into crystalline energy. So we're literally lightening up the body and allowing more room for the soul to drive the vehicle. So when you hear people say history is repeating itself, it's because there's still a majority running off their AI programming and not allowing their soul to be the driver and have the actual experience that the soul wanted to have. And that's why you have those longings and you have that desire to experience certain things, because your soul came here to have a physical experience and it wants to literally experience whatever it wants. And this is why I'm always saying you can literally create and have anything you want. But the fastest way to do that is to allow your soul in and to step out of that generational programming. So this is why it's so important to do the reprogramming work, to trust yourself, to do a lot of those things. So I thought it was super interesting that they came in and said history will repeat itself over and over again in a time-space continuum until we reach that new level of love. And that once we hit, we're the majority, and this is why we're going to see kind of a timeline split, if you will, soon. You're going to see a real split where so many people are living outside of time and so many people are just living their lives and loving their lives and so not caring what's happening in the world, because it really has no merit at a very quantum level. It has no merit. It's a choice to play in that or not. And you're going to see the people who are running off of their generational programming, that's what their AR, that's the fuel of their AI, is generational programming. Do you guys follow what I'm saying? Sometimes this gets a little quantum, but I thought it was super interesting, so I thought I would throw it in here. Yay. Yeah, the energy's been, my sleep has been weird. I was talking about that earlier. You're welcome, Jennifer. But don't ever think like, I have moments of that too. Like, God, did I heal that? Just remember, we're an onion. You're just peeling off another layer. You're just peeling off another layer. So what questions do you guys have? You want to talk about more dream stuff, energy stuff, healing? What kind of stuff do you guys want to chat about today? We've had some really good questions lately. And how is everybody feeling now that we've moved through the peak of the eclipse? What do you want to talk about with dreams, Corey? Give me a question about them. You seem to be very fascinated with dreams lately. There's so many different things that we do in our dream state. We astral travel, we purge, we heal. There's so many different things that can happen. And my favorite thing is that we dream in reverse. A lot of people don't know that, and I think it's just so cool. I couldn't sleep much last night and have been awake since 3:30 a.m. this morning. I've been getting detailed dreams. Are you writing it down? So with your detailed dreams, do you feel like what kind of dreams are they? Do you feel like they're messages? Do you feel like they're precognition, meaning you're reading the future or being shown a future vision? Salim says, barely remember my dreams lately. That's okay. You guys can always set an intention. You can call on Archangel Gabriel is a really good one for dreams. and you can set the intention to remember your dreams. Just call on Gabrielle and say, I set the intention to remember my dreams. And then the second, like as soon as you wake up, right when you're coming out of that REM sleep and you're waking up, you want to grab a little notepad just put a little notepad by your bed and just start writing whatever comes up. And there are times when we won't remember our dreams or we won't have dreams. And that's because we're doing deep healing work and we need to kind of shut it down. I think these dreams lately is like I am traveling in a different timeline. Are you playing out scenarios that, like I was talking about in the beginning? Are you going into a different, are you playing out potentials that you didn't get a chance to do? Are you learning from them? Or do you feel like there is messages for you that you're not understanding? And this is the interesting thing, right? Because we all have different lenses of perception. We're all at different levels of our evolution. And so we're all going to see and understand things just a little bit differently, just that fine tuning. A lot of my dreams that I feel that are timeline are by a body of water. It's really cool. You feel like you're playing out timelines. Yeah. So like in the beginning of this, I talked about how, and this is for me, so if it's not that way for you, look for the subtle nuances that are reoccurring. So again, when I'm in a past life, when I'm going to a past life, to learn something, to play something, to reconcile something, which is a big reason why, another big reason why I created Reclamation, because this year is a big year for reconciling. And it's really important that we do that reconciling. But I was when I would go into past lives in my dream state, it would be this red clay tint. It was almost like this rust color. It's as if I was wearing rust colored glasses, right? Everything was seen through that color. And when I'm in another timeline, playing out another potential, everything's kind of a grayish color. It's not quite gray. It's like a gray bluish color. But again, that's why I say rose-colored glasses, right? You put rose-colored glasses on, you see everything in that tint. That's how it looks for me. It's in a tint, but that's me. That's my tell. And so when we learn to read our energy, that includes our physical body and our auric field and our dream state. You start paying attention to when I feel like I'm in another timeline. What is the reoccurring thing that's happening? Is it the way that I remember it? Is it the way that it feels? Is it a coloring? What is the reoccurring theme that happens? And take note of that. Be conscious of that, because what that will do is allow you to know immediately, okay, I was in another timeline. Oh my God, last night I was in a past life. And when I get precognition in my dream state, it feels very real, but it also feels very incomplete. So for example, one of the very first prognitions, and I love telling this story because it's so much fun, but this was my very first, not my very first. I had precognition as a child a lot, but my first precognition as an adult, after my awakening, I had this precognition. So what would happen is I would see it and I would get a knowing, and then it would jump to the next thing and I would see it and I would get a knowing. So I saw shipping containers. I was at I guess a port or something like that. And they had a boat that was transporting shipping containers, and my container was being put on the boat. And it was filled with like all my furniture and stuff. And so I got this knowing that I would be moving to an island. I'd be moving to an island, and I had to have my stuff shipped. Then I jumped and I was on a train, and the window of the train was open, and there was this all white owl flying right next to me. And I got the knowing that I would be a spiritual teacher, that I would have some type of school or academy, a place where people came, not just energetically like online, but physically. I would have a physical location that they would come to. And it's so funny because when I was telling my girlfriend about this, she goes, "You mean like Harry Potter?" At that time, I had never watched a Harry Potter movie. I knew nothing about Harry Potter. I had to go and watch Harry Potter because I had no idea. And so when I saw him on a train with his owl, I about died laughing because I was like, oh my God. Apparently I'm going to create a Hogwarts or something. I don't know. So when I get precognition, I see a scene, like a clip of a movie, and then I get a knowing. So as a child, I had a precognition that my great grandmother was going to die. A year later, on that date, she died. And I shut that shit down because I thought I caused it. So I think I was 8. I think I was 8. So somewhere around there. And I would have, because I'm very clairvoyant, I've always had vivid dreams, but my precognition didn't come back until after my awakening. So anyway, a lot of random tips, but pay attention, you guys, to, even when meditation, pay attention to the little subtle nuances that are reoccurring. And that's why I love to teach people how to develop their clairsentience, because it took me, and I've talked about this, but I could never find a teacher who focused on clairsentience. But clairsentience is the primary gift of most people. And it's sensing when any energy. Clairsentience is not about clear feeling or empathicness. That's a big misconception. Clear feeling is when we can feel emotions and body. And I have clear feeling as well, but clairsentience is about energy interacting with your auric field, and you read that energy. And so that's why I'm like always in everything I do trying to teach people how to read their energy in my courses and memberships and stuff, because that is the secret sauce to just about everything. You will read energy so much better. You will be so much more tuned in when you learn to read your own energy. It's amazing. But so clairsentience is about sensing the energy and changing it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're always learning. We're always learning. The color is more dull compared to the waking life. Thank you so much for helping know the difference. Yeah, so notice if it changes though. Like if you start going into past lives or something else that feels like that, see if it changes. What else do you guys want to talk about today? Does the energy feel, I know you guys know I'm usually a little bit ahead, but do you guys feel like the energy today is weird? I feel like it's weird. I feel like we stepped into, at least for me anyway, and I know a lot of way showers will probably feel this way, but I feel like we've stepped, like I'm stepped onto a new dimension or a new plane, or I don't know, there's something new. Right? It feels new, and it's like when you get to it, you like move into a new place or you move to a new city, you're like, I don't know what to do here. It just feels awkward because you're the new person. It's what it feels like for me today. It's so strange. So strange. I'm feeling disoriented today. That's how I was yesterday. I had moments of being disoriented. When you feel that way, it's helpful to ground yourself. And the easiest way to ground is to be present. So come back to the present moment, use your breath, go for a walk in nature, consciously remind yourself to come back all together. Like I call back all the parts and pieces of myself and just kind of slow it down. Hi, Shelly. Just slow it down, you know? Yesterday, so I had these moments too yesterday, and I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced this, but and I actually had this happen my whole entire life. And so internally, I will feel like I'm going 100 miles an hour. I will feel like I'm going so fast inside, but outside, it'll feel like I'm in slow motion. It's a weird paradox. And so I'm just now like, I'm listening to what's, so they're reminding me that every time I've gone through an up level or a shift in my energy, that I have those, because that's the moment where I'm traveling into that new dimension. And I didn't even know that until now. It's like there's that transit that's happening where you're traveling. And so internally, I literally inside, I feel like I can't go fast enough. I'm like, I gotta go faster. I gotta go faster. Inside, I'm going 1,000,000 miles per minute. And on the outside, I feel like I'm going in slow motion. Has anybody else ever felt that way? That's how I felt that way a couple of times when I was a kid, and throughout my adulthood, I've had moments where I felt that way. And what they're telling me right now, as I was saying that, was that's the sign that I'm moving into a different timeline or dimension, which is interesting. Makes sense. It makes sense. You have that at times too. What do you think it is for you, Jessica? Does that resonate for you? Or what, or do you know what's happening when you do that? Have you nailed down what that means for you? Yes, feeling fast motion inside. And it makes sense what they're saying, because if your soul's operating its energy, right? Your soul is, you know, if we only could understand, if our human AI system could only understand the vast knowledge and speed and things that are available, it'd probably break our brains. But I also can understand that, because I've gone through moments in my life where I felt like I was chasing my higher self, meaning my soul was really wanting to have that experience, and I felt like my soul was already there, and it was like I was trying to get my human to catch up. So sometimes I felt like that. Well, maybe you should tap into it when the next time you have it, or communicate with your guides in meditation and ask what it means for you. It's so important that we learn to read our own energy, guys. It's so important. I'm good. How are you today? Like before I took my membership, the Portal Potential, through that journey yesterday, I'd gone through my own journey, like I mentioned, and I pretty much know what every part of my body means. Like when it's out of alignment, I know what it represents. I know what it's telling me. But I had never gone into my shins. I never felt a reason for that. And in that journey, I had realized that I had an unconscious programming stored in my legs, particularly in my shins. And you guys, this programming has wreaked havoc on my financial life. This unconscious block that was stored. Because remember, just as the universe stores information, it compresses it into a crystal, that our body does the same. So everything that we've ever learned, and all our knowledge from every life we've ever lived, from all our lineage, everything is in our bones. They call it the dry ingredients. It's compressed. And it can be brought up and be given life to be played out if it's needed to, but everything is within our body. You don't actually have to go to a hall of records. You don't actually have to do anything. You can read anything from any time and space just from knowing how to read your body. And it's so important. And so I was able to, because oftentimes when we reject or repress feelings or information or energy that like we're in resistance, I'm afraid of that, I don't want to feel that, it's uncomfortable. And that resistance, every time we're resisting it, right, we're pressurizing it and we're compressing it into our physical body. And eventually it's going to cause disease. That's why it's called dis-ease. And that's why oftentimes it comes up in layers, like Jennifer was asking about, because we only allow it to come up in layers. Because sometimes it's a big file. It's a big file. Shelley says, I became fully awake through a traumatic experience and since have been nauseous almost daily. What do you mean? Like your spiritual awakening started through a traumatic experience? Is that what you mean? And since you've been nauseous almost daily. Nauseous for me, again, so why it's important to read your body. Nauseous for me is basically shame coming up. So remember, in the lower three chakras hold the density and help you access the density of your childhood and of your lineage. And then that's mirrored and becomes a lens for your upper chakras. The chakras are very misunderstood. So when you had the traumatic experience, grief is up here. Grief comes out of your lungs, breath, letting go, right? Final let go. But the lower chakras, especially not nausea, can be about your power, giving your power away, feeling disempowered, has a lot to do with shame. And just feeling uneasy, right? Having emotions turning. So you probably have a lot. The bugs like me today. You probably have, when you went through that traumatic experience, it probably unearthed a lot of traumatic energy from this life, from other lifetimes that needed to be alchemized, needed to change form, was an opportunity for you to take it from carbon to crystalline. And so it's about feeling it and holding space for it. So how good are you at sitting with your pain, with your discomfort, with your emotions, and allowing yourself to love yourself through it, to feeling it, not resisting it, not trying to fix it, not trying to energy heal it, just allowing yourself to feel it and giving yourself permission to feel it, because emotions are visitors. They're just passing through. But we're so stubborn, these human bodies, and we just want to attach to everything and give everything meaning. And that's why we have anxiety, right? Anxiety is about self-obsession. It's feeling like everything's about us. And that's a program. As a child, if you were made to feel like everything was your fault, or that everything you did was because of you, or if your parents were sad, it was because of you, you will grow up and have social anxiety because you will feel like everything's about you or everything's your fault. And so we have these things that run. So Shelley, try just sitting with it when it comes up, feeling it, communicating with it. What are you trying to tell me? Your body is its own consciousness. So if your body doesn't trust you, or you don't trust your body, you're not going to have a good communication. And you really want to have a good communication with your body, right? You, like just with your physical car, your physical home, you really want to know what's wrong with it so that you can fix it before it becomes a big problem, a very expensive problem. But we don't seem to do that with our bodies. We just trust other people instead of trusting ourselves. Julie says, going through your mentorship and also having the DNA strands upgrades has really taught me to appreciate working through the layers. I think if we were given the huge energy hit of healing or too much information at once, it would be sensory overload, as well as having the opportunity to apply the experience over time. Exactly. It would be sensory overload. It would be too much, because remember, This is a very dense experience, a physical experience. And when it's dense, the energy moves slower. So if you throw a ball through the air, you can go pretty fast. Throw a ball through water, it's going to go a lot slower. It's got to move through something. So as this energy is moving through something in our body, one, we feel it and it doesn't feel good. Care who you are, it doesn't feel good. But it also takes time. So if we unleashed all of that trauma at once, even if it's just one thing, if you were sexually abused over and over again, or if you were, hold on one second, I missed it. Oh, someone let a fly in today. If you, when we're traumatized and we have a trauma, it's because, or even a program, childhood programming, right? It's because that happened, you witnessed it or experienced it over and over and over and over again until it became a program. You're like, oh, this is just how we live. This is just how we operate. This is just how I'm treated. And that comes from observing our caregivers and by experiencing that life as with a caregiver. And so you have to recognize that. And so it's not just about I was sexually abused or I was abused or my parents didn't play with me or, told me to get my head out of the clouds or whatever it was. It's that happened many, many times. And so we have to allow that pain to come up in layers. And sometimes you guys can have, sometimes it does come up all at once, and that's because you're at a space where you can handle it. But some of the bigger things I've noticed only comes up in layers. And that's why when I do my DNA sessions, the way that I restructure DNA and activate it is done in a particular way. I'm the only practitioner I know that does it the way that I do, because I don't want to cause a healing crisis for you. I've been through a healing crisis. It is not fun. It is traumatic as hell. It's worse than having actual trauma. Shelly says, I lost my child and I've been doing a lot of self-healing. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. I just want to send you so much love right now. Yeah, it's going to come up in layers, babe. It's going to come up in layers. Just love yourself through it. Give yourself permission to be angry. Give yourself permission to be sad. And see where you are on the grief scale. And if there's 5 stages of grief, are you still in the bargaining? Are you still angry? There's no right or wrong here. And there is no length of time for grief. We all grieve at different lengths of time. Is this life a dream? Depends on the perspective of how you're looking at it. It depends on the experience. It's the best way I can describe it is a movie. It's a movie playing out, and you picked your character and you picked your supporting actors, and you said, let's go have a physical experience, and these are the things that I want to experience. Now remember, when you are back in an energetic state, when you are part of the one, right? And even here we're a part of the one because we're connected to the collective. We have a majority energy, right? So when you return back to the one, there is no right or wrong. There's no lessons to learn. It's like a light hitting a spectrum in a prism. That light hits and it fractals out in a million things. So you still have you're still a part of the original light, but then there's all these fractal lights, right? So if you take a light and shine it into a prism, you're going to have the one light, and then you're going to have fractal light everywhere. That's exactly what we are. We are a fractal stream of light off of the one source. So when you return back to one, you feel like you are connected to everyone and to everything, but you also have your own coloring and your own wisdom of experience that now the one has access to. The other thing is or you can use it as a video game too. But if we stick with the movie role, sometimes we have 6 or 7 movies in a series and they're progressed, right? They're going in a certain direction, that the movie's evolving, the story's evolving. And so that's us. We're evolving. If it's a video game, if you want to look at it from the video game, you pick the game you want to play. You pick the role. And so some people do come here to experience what we consider dark or negative. That's the energy that they wanted to experience and explore, and they don't see it as good or bad. And I know this triggers people. And when I first was told this by my team, it triggered me because I've been abused. And I would say, I wouldn't want to be abused. I didn't want to sign up for that experience. And the way that they came at it, the way that they reconciled that with me was, there is no good or bad. Yes. But what they said is that's the free will part. And that's why I did a video on divine will versus free will. You can find it here on YouTube. But the free will is the creative expression. So you wanted to have experience of a 6-bedroom house with 2 baths and a pool in front of the ocean. Let's just say that was the experience. Your soul's like, I want to experience that. I'm just going to use a random thing. Your free will is how you design the house, like the decorations, the experience of it. That's the free will. That's the creative expression. So for me, if I wanted to experience abandonment, because that's pretty much what my life story is denial of self, abandonment, being denied, denying my state of being, right? Denying my soul, basically. If I wanted to have that experience, the creative expression of that is how that is played out. So my mom left, I was abused, we have these things. So it doesn't mean that you chose to be abused or chose to be an abuser. You just came to have a particular experience. And we, as the human robot, right, or AI, however you want to label that, have been programmed over many lineages that there is a right or wrong. So, for example, a lot of people worship Jesus Christ, right? Jesus was the human. Christ was the consciousness that he allowed as his soul, right? He allowed his soul to embody his self fully. His soul was the soul. He became the sole driver of that car. He became an enlightened being. Are you guys following me? And so people looked at Jesus because he was able to manifest instantly. He was able to alchemize energy instantly. He was able to turn water into wine. Because if we allow our souls to step into our physical body completely and be the sole driver of that vehicle, or even the majority driver, it would blow your mind to understand what we could create and manifest in a second. And this is where we're going. This is where we're going. But this is why people worship him, because they look at him, oh my God, look what he could do. What did he actually do? He allowed his soul to step in completely. He was an excellent example of ascension. Yeah, Buddha, all those other ones, the same thing, right? All the ascended masters, right? Ascended master. They mastered ascension. And they're human. So their human body transcended. That human body transcended, meaning it was fully alchemized from density to light. And that's why he could be reborn and still seen, because now he was a shapeshifter. He could come in and out. And this is why I also tell people all the time that when we connect to Archangel Michael or Gabriel or any of these other beings, it's not just one being, it's a collective. Many, many, many souls have entered in to create that mastery, meaning it took them many, many lifetimes or experiences to achieve that. So there is a collective of these beings. It's not just one. And it's kind of cool, right? I think it's cool. I feel so free when I see it as a dream, but when I don't, I get so much judgment. Yeah, we're here to master letting our soul drive this vehicle. And so I still have moments of judgment. And that's why I always say people, and they're like, I'm fully awake. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm not fully awake. No one's fully awake until you've hit enlightenment. You have moments of being awake. And you're going to have the more practice you do, the more aware you are, the more present you are, the more awake you will be. The more time your soul will be driving your vehicle. But when you're not present, when you're worrying about the future, or you're replaying the past, or you're in judgment or fear, that's your AI, that's your human. And just have that awareness. My team has always said this is a game. It means nothing, but it means everything. Meaning what we're collecting here is information and wisdom for the whole one. But really what we do here doesn't mean anything. You're not going to be judged. There is no heaven or hell. That's really hard for people to understand. And the reason why people turn to religion or God, worshiping God or Jesus, is because they deem that those entities, those energies are more powerful than they are. And that those entities are going to bless them and give them permission or tell them you are worthy of something. They're giving their power away to something outside of themselves because they don't trust themselves. They trust God. They trust Jesus. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's where you are, that's where you need to be. That's what you've chosen to experience. So don't judge yourself for that. And I'm not judging you for that. But a lot of people who are in fear right now or feel like they don't know how to trust themselves, or they can't trust themselves, or that, that they, that there's some divine plan or some one person in the sky that's saying you're worthy of this and you're not. I have to do certain things to get into heaven or to be worthy of money. You don't. Whatever you want to experience, you can experience. But when you trust yourself and when you realize that I am you, you are me, literally we all come from that one source light. Remember, there's one light and it prismed out. There's no separation between me and Jesus. There's no separation between me and you. There's no separation between me and source. I am a part of that one. I am an aspect of God. My soul is an aspect of God. My human vessel is a work in progress. Kind of deep conversation, but it's cool. I'm fascinated by this stuff. So I love it when people ask me these types of questions, because if I don't know it, I'll know it in a day or two because my team will download it into me. But I have this message on my board right here. Non-judgment means we are perfect where we are. We don't have to choose another perspective. We can say, I don't choose that, all while allowing them to be where they are. Seeing, understanding, that's their point of view, their lens, it holds value. Meaning I am right and you are right. So nobody's wrong, nobody's right. It's just one truth. And there's all these different versions of the truth depending upon the perspective that one truth is being looked at. But it's hard for us on a human level to grasp that concept because we get threatened by your truth is different than my truth. So who's right? Because that's a trauma response. I think I'm an advanced soul because I can follow what you are saying. People have so much fear that they want to get in touch with those that hate them just to prove that they love, just to prove that they love. I don't think you're an advanced soul. I just think you're further along on your evolution. There's no right or wrong where we are on our souls. Some people came here to experience a very dense, low vibration. That's what they chose. But it's just this, I have access to a ridiculous amount of information, as I just showed you guys by what I brought through. But I still have very dense human experiences too. So it's what they always tell me is it's about living in totality, meaning releasing the knowing that there's a right or wrong. But our generational traumatic programming or generational lineage programming doesn't even have to be tied to trauma. Some of us have been programmed, majority of us has been programmed to give our power away, that there's a right or wrong. And because we deem it right or wrong, because we have an experience and it feels bad, so we say that's bad. But here's the interesting thing. And I never understood this. And it's almost like I'd love to have an interview with someone who is super religious. Move some energy here. Because I really am curious about their trains of thought here. But if someone does something bad, okay, let's just use my example. I was abused, right? So my abuser abused me. People say that's bad. But if you're judging my abuser and want to punish my abuser, you're no better than the abuser. Because my abuser was punishing me, right? And you are punishing my abuser. So I never understood that in religion, how they judge you, or if you're someone who judges, you are no better than the person you're judging because you're doing the same thing. I just, maybe that's me. It doesn't compute. I feel like if there is a God, or if there is, again, to me, it always comes across as a source, of a one consciousness. There are gods, soul streams that are more advanced because they've mastered their ascension, right? But when we look at the one source and we understand that there's no right or wrong and there is no judgment, there is only love. It does not matter if somebody does something bad or good. They're worthy of love just in existing. And that's why my tattoo says, I love you anyway. Because it was a reminder to me that whatever I am perceiving as good or bad, or perceiving as a judgment, is my human. But my soul and the one consciousness loves me anyway. It loves me whether I create an OnlyFans account and do some weird, whatever they do on OnlyFans, or if I'm over here sharing wisdom and helping people who are hurting. There's no separation. I'm not loved any different. I'm not judged. And this is why I have such an issue with religion, because I feel like people forget that religion was created as a means of control. Religion was created to be fear-based. And so they create the fear of God, right? And then when we get to that point inside of ourselves where we're here to ascend and recognize that we are a fractal of that one God or that one source, we have the God wound because we've been made to fear God, that we have to behave a certain way. I allow myself to be a quitter when necessary. Absolutely. Just quit when you guys, if you try something out and you don't like it, don't feel like you got to complete it. Just be like, I tried it, didn't like it. But misery loves company, right? So we remember, I am you, you are me. So understanding that, we begin to realize that manifesting is happening all at the same, like you are always manifesting. There is never a time that you are not manifesting. You are going to attract your state of being, who you are on what the undercurrent of your energy is. And this is why my teachings are about being the change. You have to become that in which you want to seek. And so you got to really trust yourself. You got to learn to love yourself. The fastest way to let your soul drive the vehicle is to love yourself unconditionally, is to stop judging yourself and your experiences. It is to trust yourself and not just people outside of you. That is the fastest way. And that is what I teach. And I have transcended, I transcend very quickly, very quickly. And I was just telling someone yesterday, I want to put my 2 weeks notice in on healing for a little while and take a break because it can get so intense, so intense. Shelley says, I was raised in a religious home and I'm struggling with that. Yeah, it takes courage to do this work, and religious programming can be hard to break through sometimes. It can be difficult, but you can do it. You can absolutely do it. It's about recognizing that it's a program. It is intense. It's super intense. Awakening and awareness is intense. You just know things, and you see things so differently, so differently. And it's very lonely sometimes because we don't feel understood. We feel like an outcast. We feel like we don't belong because we're not the majority. But who wants to be the majority anyway? That's boring. Universe knows your heart always. Absolutely. That's where your soul lives, is in your heart. And that's why we put up so many walls around our heart, because we only as a soul know love. We only know love. So coming in as a baby, a little baby, and not being, remember how wasted you cry it out and they separated the baby from the mom and they did all those things? So many people have the abandonment wound because of that. We're not used to being separate, and we're not used to being told no, and we're not used to feeling pain. And so when we feel that, our soul's like, oh, this is terrible. We start building walls. You just want to what? Go Google them? Google them. I don't know what you mean by female enlightened masters in the modern day. I'm not sure what you're asking. I love deep discussions, Salim. I'm a Pisces, you guys. Cancer sun, Pisces moon, Scorpio rising. So it means I'm ruled by Pisces. Pisces is the woo-woo queen. Pisces is deep, mystical shit. That is my favorite. I could sit and talk for hours on deep stuff. Catholic is one of the most strict ones, in my opinion. I haven't studied all the religions, so I could be wrong. But man, there should be no fear when it comes to attachment to God. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's so bad. I've done belief work, healing for this life and my bloodline. Amazing how people connect and have benefited from my work. Good for you for doing the deep healing work. Now remember, when you heal it for yourself, you heal it for your bloodline, because it stops with you. You break the cycle of generational trauma. So all you have to do is live in the present moment. You don't actually have to go back, forward, right, left. You just got to be present. And in the reprogramming of your beliefs and the reprogramming and the changing of the energy, it stops with you. And you end it. You end the generational cycle. It's such amazing work. That's why when you heal yourself, you heal the world. Spirituality is so different than Christianity. So how I see spirituality is there's no box. There's no right or wrong. There's it's a vast quantum oneness where you get to explore and play and have multiple perspectives and multiple understandings, because we are multidimensional beings. When we talk about religion, even Buddhism, honestly, has some types of boxing to it, right? It's got specific rules and things like that. So while Buddhism is probably a more open religion, a lot of the other religions have what I call boxes around them. There's a fence, there's rules. You got to be kind of allowed in, and you can be kicked out. And I just don't see that is, how does that serve you? How does that serve you to limit you and to make you wrong and to shame you? I live in the Bible Belt, you guys. Do you know how many times I've heard people say shame on you? That's terrible. We should never put shame on anybody because what we're doing is when we say shame on you, we are projecting our shame onto somebody else. And we're saying the shame we feel is because of that person, and that's projection. That's bullshit. My family kinds of things, I'm out there with my thoughts. You know, just because they're your bloodline does not mean you have to be around them. It's a choice. Oh, thank you. I love they said I loved your meditations. There's so many good meditations on YouTube and on Insight Timer. For those of you who don't want to be on YouTube, you can go to Insight Timer. I'm a teacher on Insight Timer. I have a lot of good ones. I love my journeys and meditations. I had one, someone used for 30 days straight, the same one, and it completely opened up her clairaudience and her just cleared so much for her. All my stuff is energy infused, meaning it's all energy work, all energy work. And anything that I use the purification process is DNA work. Oh, thank you, Shelley. Yeah, I'm not around my family most of the time either, Jessica. I've always, I don't know, I've always felt like an outsider. So this is how I've been told. It's 11:11. Here's how I was told about star seeds. Okay, so when people talk about being the star seed, so at the macrocosm, we're all star seeds because we all came from somewhere else. We're not like, nobody's really from Earth, right? It's just not a thing. So we are all star beings at some level. But when you are a star seed, then you are of the 144 who were seeded here to be the way showers of the new earth. Some people are more angelically connected. And so they're not really in the star seed collective. They're more of the angel collective, right? So some are more elemental. So it's just a matter of knowing your lineage, and you don't even have to know it. I don't know where this came from, but it started to come up. But being an outsider. So when I was a little girl, I remember as a little girl always looking out the back window and staring up at the moon. And I always had this longing for the moon. I always felt like I was not, this was not my home. I don't feel like I ever was completely shut down. I feel like I've always been somewhat aware most of my life. I've always considered myself spiritual, even though before I even knew what that meant. So I used to stare at the moon, and I always felt like the moon was my home. I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like an alien in my home. I was the only blonde in my family. I just didn't feel like I ever belonged. I've always felt like an outsider. So when I had my hardcore awakening, where I was like, oh, now I know why I felt that way. Yeah. And I don't hide it anymore. I mean, I have like stuff like this around my house and outside. I don't hide who I am anymore. I went through a phase of that, and I think we all do, like where we come out of it, where we're in the closet and we don't want to tell people. And now I'm just who I am. And I do the nice thing about learning to read energy is you can read where somebody is on their journey. You can kind of get an idea of where they are on their evolution, and you can adjust your language. So think of it as school, right? You have 5-year-olds, and then you have 17-year-olds. You're not going to, if you're conveying a message, you're going to speak it differently to the 5-year-old than you are to the 17-year-old. Just as you would say it differently to a 45-year-old or a 25-year-old. So when you learn to read energy, and you always have to start with your own, you can sense and read, where is this person at on their evolution? And that will not censor you, but it will adjust your vocabulary so that you can speak to them in a way that they will understand. I do energy healing. Oh my God, yes, biological family usually treats you the worst and creates so many wounds. Finding soul tribe family has been so healing. Because remember, your human AI, this is programmed through that lineage crap. So they're just constantly reminding you and triggering. They're triggering that density. Remember, it's a reverse vending machine. So it's like the density vends up to our heart space and we feel it so intently. And all we're being asked to do is to open our heart and say, come in, let me wrap you in a warm blanket of love. So in a way, our family is our greatest gift because they are vending up the dense parts of us constantly and allowing us to transform that energy at any given moment. And sometimes we need to take a damn break from that and be with the people that are light and like-minded and uplifting. So it's about a balancing game. And in no way, shape, or form should we ever allow people to abuse us or speak poorly to us. Authenticity. Love the bravery you have shown. Well, thank you. Living in totality means that you guys need to see that no matter how much information I know or how much I can channel or however cool powers, whatever abilities I might have or how I can help people, that I'm still a human and I still have density to alchemize and I still have bad days, and that we should not be judging and putting people on pedestals. I'm not any better than you. I'm just in a different space in my evolution. There's no better than here at all. But that's another program. We've been trained for hierarchy. And this is why I always laugh at people. I always laugh when people are like, those MLM pyramid schemes. And I'm like, you are an MLM pyramid scheme. Like, you believe in hierarchy. You've given your power to the government. You've given your power to your boss. You've given your power to your kids or your spouse, right? You are a walking MLM. You are a walking pyramid. So it's so funny how we are triggered by our own state of being. Remember, everything is but a mirror. So the things that trigger you and that you judge are truths about you that you just haven't accepted yet. I suppose you aren't on earth, but you are home. What would you be seeking? Suppose you aren't on earth, but you are at home. What would you be seeking? Great. I'm glad you said that, because that is perfect. When I was talking about earlier about being in that time-space continuum, if you can sit with yourself and say, if I know that this is just a game, if I know if I can allow my soul to drive my vehicle and that I can literally have and create and have any experience I want, how would you operate differently? How would your decisions be different? What would you do differently? Would you stop worrying so much, knowing that you will always be taken care of? It? All you have to do is be like, what do I want to happen instead? What do I want to create instead? But when you're in worry and when you're in doubt and when you're in fear, you are running your automatic pilot program. Your soul's not driving. You're not in creation mode. You're just in autopilot mode. So if you could have that shift and you knew that you were only love and that there was no right or wrong, and that you were allowed to have an experience with anything, meaning you could be the most wealthy person in the world and have jets and eat the finest foods and go to the most magical places and not be judged. Or you could be a homeless person who wanted to just explore and be free and live off the land. You wouldn't be judged. There's no right or wrong. How would you live differently? How would you operate differently? Can you share and educate on astral traveling? I feel it may be happening and not sure how to manage it. So astral traveling, I'm not an expert on astral traveling at all, but I'll just give you what I know for myself. It's about intention. Remember, intention is the directions that you're entering into your GPS system. GPS system. This is your travel vehicle, right? So it's about setting an intention. So when you start to astral traveling, that means you're going places and having experiences for a particular reason, to gain information, to bring that information back into your conscious field. So when you are astral traveling, you are going to a particular place or person for a reason. So it's about recognizing when you're in it, that you're traveling and that you are in the driver's seat. But a lot of times we can get stuck in the astral travel because and feel like we can't get in because sometimes we feel that disconnect from our physical vessel. And sometimes it can feel a bit scary, like we can't come back, right? And some people will even go into lucid dreaming where they realize that they are awake, meaning they're conscious of what's happening, where they can turn things on and off and manipulate things because they are conscious of what's happening. So it's about setting your intention. Here's another thing is your soul is going to take you on those journeys, right? It's the human part of you that's confused about the astral traveling. If you're waking up tired, you guys, like you have run a marathon overnight, you've been astral traveling. You've been astral traveling because your energy has been busy all night. So when I go through periods where I'm astral traveling a lot, I will set the intention when I go to sleep to stay in my body. I will say, I set the intention to stay in my body, to stay grounded and in my body. Remember, you got to speak in the affirmative. You don't want to say, I set the intention to not travel. The universe only hears to travel, doesn't hear not. They don't hear the negative connotation. That doesn't compute. So setting your intention, and if there's something that you want to travel to or go to, then set your intention to travel to that space, or set the intention to become more lucid or more aware. What is his name? There's a really good guy who talks about astral traveling. Let me see if I can find him while we're on here, because he is much more of an expert than I am on this topic, and I don't know everything. So, what is his name? This is when I need Tanya. Tanya knows everybody's name like off the top of her head. If I find it, now that I'm looking for it, I probably won't find it. Okay, here he is. Ryan Cropper. Ryan Cropper. So let me type it. Search him on YouTube. In fact, the video that I just hit, using astral projection to visit the pyramids. This is his specialty. And he's interesting. So I'll just put that in the comments. You guys can find him on YouTube, because he's going to give you way more deeper information than I'm going to give you. Oh, Shelly, set your intention, love. You can also write on an index card and put it in your pillow. That's another little secret. You can ask for Archangel. Just set your intention on a little note card. I set the intention for Archangel Gabriel to take me into a space where I can meet my son in my dreams and communicate. Something simple like that. You don't have to get super quantum with your wording. Just set your intention. I will tell you, if you aren't at a space in your grief where you can handle it, it won't happen, right? So your heart's got to be at a certain level. When our loved ones cross back over into the oneness, we are given space to heal, because we have to transcend that density into light. We have to alchemize that, because we feel that physical loss, because they are an aspect of our soul, right? We're used to being connected as one. So when we feel them in the physical, we feel that connection. And when they leave, we feel that disconnection, because we feel like we have a hole in our heart. But that love in this life that you gave to your son needs to be returned back to yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't still love your son. It just means that the love that you gave your son was actually your love. It wasn't his. And so we just need to, that love that you were giving him, you need to give back to yourself. And so that's the process of loving yourself when you're grieving any type of loss, whether it's a person or place or thing, or even a potential. It's about returning that love to yourself. So if you're not at a space where you're ready for that, it may not happen, or you may have fears around it. So set your intention to meet him in your dream space. And so when he comes to you in your dreams, that's real. That's you guys meeting and being together. I asked my guides for a break. Sometimes it's necessary, I'm telling you. And so you can also astral project into other timelines and other realities. Remember, it's about setting your intention, which is the coordinates for your GPS system, and then trusting, meaning you have to get out of the way and you have to allow for it to unfold in the way that it wants to. But what happens a lot of the time is the human wants to control and go a certain place. And so when you're in control, that's a masculine energy. That's a giving energy. But when you let go and you allow for things to unfold however they need to, that's a feminine energy. That's a receiving. So you can't seek and receive at the same time. So you really just got to lean back. You lean back and just allow and see what happens. And then trust what you see, sense, feel, hear. Salim says, I've been lucid dreaming 3 times. I still remember the dream so detailed. I guess they wanted to tell me something. The creepy part is that I could hear my thoughts while I was dreaming. Yeah, that's lucid dreaming. You're very aware that you're awake in a dream. It's crazy. And a lot of times people can feel like they're getting trapped and they don't know how to return to their body. So it can be quite disturbing sometimes. And a lot of times with night terrors, when you have kids that have night terrors, they're reconciling other lifetimes, and it can be traumatic. So there's certain things that you can do with your kids as well when they're having night terrors. Yeah, so you begged him not to leave. So you were at a stage in your grief where you were bargaining, and he came and he disappeared because he knew it was going to do you more harm than good, hon. It's going to do you more harm than if it causes you more pain. They don't want to cause you more pain. But I can tell you, he's always around you. He's always around you. I like the analogy of intentions as coordinates of GPS. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what it is. If you wait, it's why every day when I wake up, I have an intention. Today is going to be a good day. Spirit, show me how it gets better. Whatever. Set an intention before your feet hit the ground. What do you intend to happen that day? Because if you don't have an intention, you're just living in chaos. And it doesn't mean that the day is going to be perfect because you set the intention, right? If we're going to go from here to 20 miles away, we enter in the directions into our GPS, or the destination into our GPS system. And sometimes we hit obstacles and there's roadblocks and we have to find an alternate route. And sometimes there's traffic and we have to be patient and be where we are in that moment. But that's why when I was talking about no right or wrong, and if you realize that this really is a game, how would you live your life differently? Would you be cussing and pissed that you're not being able to get where you want and that there's roadblocks or this? Or would you be like, oh, I just need to find another way, right? The GPS system just finds another way. We just have to find a way in. That's it. Do the Buddha belly stages of ascension ever subside? There's the opportunity for them, for sure. Ascension symptoms suck. They just do. I feel ascension symptoms very intently. But what I've learned is grace through suffering. Meaning, when I feel them, I just say, this is just an ascension symptom. There's energy moving, it's collective movement, planetary movement, we're traveling. And think about if you're on a roller coaster or you're on a ride on a boat, right? You feel the different nuances of the movement of the boat. You get seasick, right? Motion sickness. That's all it is. Energy's moving. It's motion sickness inside. So will it ever subside? I feel like it gets easier to navigate. I feel like the less we focus on it, it doesn't really affect us anymore. Before, I would wake up with an energy hangover, like a headache, or I would, I would feel something. I would go into the story, poor me, I feel like crap, and it would just spiral. The more I get into the story, the more I poor me and victim it out, the deeper I get into the human, and the more I feel it, and then it's just destroys my day. And there's sometimes where I still shut down, but I'm like, cool, it's his day off. I'm going to watch movies. I'm going to read. I'm going to catch up on personal development. I'm going to meditate some more, but I'm not going to work today because I know that my body needs to reserve its energy for me. It's doing something. There's a lot of movement happening. So I don't need to be here showing up for you guys. I need to be showing up for me. And that's the switch I've made. I went from victim, poor me, this feels like crap, I hate this, why me, blah, 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 to cool. It still sucks, feels uncomfortable. Some days are really hard, but I allow, not agreement. Allow, like, you know what I mean? So acceptance, not agreement. I accept that this is what I'm going through. I accept this is how it feels. I don't agree with it. I think it sucks, but I'm not fighting with it anymore. So when you stop resisting it, it's not as intense. It's not as intense. I did, me and my girlfriend did combo, the frog medicine. That's actually on my YouTube too. If you guys are interested in what it's like to go through combo, we documented it. We did a little documentary. But in the experience, they did this tobacco snuff thing. I forget what it's actually called. That goes up your nose. That was horrific. But we also did the eye drops. So they put these drops in your eyes. It's like somebody put ice picks in your eyeballs. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That's just, and it's like, so you're laying down. She drops them in and it was like, holy shit. Like you fly up and you're like, ah. And then we're like, grace through suffering, grace through suffering. And we laid down. And we just said, I can't control this. I can't control this. It is what it is. This is just how it feels. This is what this feels like. This is what this feels like. And it was still painful, but it was not like, it was not as intense. It was just like, okay, there's a pain there. And so I think that's the cool part about doing plant medicine sometimes is you experience the fact that now you're in this. You can't get out of it. You have no control here. You have to let go because the more you fight it, the harder it is, the more painful it is. Yeah. And Shelly, you can still ask, like I said, you can still ask to meet in the dream state and stuff. But if it's going to cause you more pain, if you're not at a space where you can accept that he has left the physical game and he is still there, but he's not in a physical form anyway. He's turned in his Tesla and he's here to help you in an energetic form. And if you can learn to love the fact that that's how he communicates with you now, that he's not really gone, when you can reach that space, you'll have more experiences with him. But if it's causing you more pain because you're still in the grief process, and that's perfectly fine for you to be there, they don't want to do that. They don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to cause you more pain. My dog also receiving gifts. He is going through ascension with me. Any advice on supporting them? Love them. Learn to communicate with them. Animals are so easy to communicate with, you guys. And in fact, they're more telepathic than they are with verbal command because they're only receiving the frequency. Your tone is what they receive and discern is what you're trying to express to them. So if you just are telepathic with them, practice your telepathy with them, you'll be able to communicate and see what the needs are of the animal. But the animals are definitely ascending with us. Cats are some of the most spiritual beings out there. There's so many witches and light workers have cats. They're transmuters. When your animals are laying upside down, they're releasing energy. When they're sleeping, they're releasing energy. That's why they sleep so much, because animals are transmuters. So they take all our crap and they heal it for us. And then they go sleep for a couple of hours and they release it in their sleep. Or they'll lay upside down and release it. Hi, Terlyn. So just good quality food for your animals, right? There's a lot of processed crap in animals' food as well. So good quality products as best you can do. Loving on them. Putting them out in nature. It's all you can do for them. They chose an experience too. We got to remember that. Resistance is exhausting, but it's so hard to let go and be receptive. That's a program, and I get it. I still have moments where I find myself in resistance. You just got to be aware of when you're in resistance and call it out by its name. Call it out by its name. I'm in resistance. Here you go. You found the program. Sweet. Thank you. That's not my program. We're going to uninstall that now. Dreams have been huge for me. I have been dreaming of a particular person. Like I said in the beginning of this, we're going through a lot of reconciling because this is an end of a really big cycle. So sometimes we meet with certain people in our sleep to reconcile or to communicate. So what are you doing in the dream and what does it feel like? I cook for him all organic. That's amazing. Awesome. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, we've been on for a long time. This is really good, deep conversation, you guys. I love today. There was a lot of good stuff in here. There's a lot of good stuff in here. So remember that I'm going to be doing this more often. I don't know about every day, but I'll definitely be doing it a lot more. So think of good questions, big questions that you want to ask. And we'll see if they have anything to share with us. But I really love today. I'm dreaming about something certain that this person shows. I'm dreaming about something certain. Then this person shows up while dreaming and is looking at me. So there's a person in your dreams that's looking at you that you don't know who it is? Is that what you're trying to say? Might be a guide. And they're most likely trying to telepathically communicate with you, because when I have experiences, not necessarily in the dream state, but in physical experiences, awake experiences, when I see loved ones or beings that come before me, they're communicating with me, but their mouth isn't moving because it's all telepathic. They don't have a voice box. So just ask who it is. Go into meditation and see who it is. Connect. Ask. I mean, asking it is given. The only reason why we can't hear the answer is because we're not trusting and we're not allowing it to come in. I know of the person, but unsure of it. I'm unsure of it. It's been happening for a week. I'm not sure what you're saying. Sometimes people are there in our space just to support us. They are an energetic support, and that's the only purpose they're there. But you're not going to know that unless you connect and communicate. If you're asking me to connect and communicate, I'm not doing that today. I don't feel a desire. I just feel like that there's something there for you. It's just a matter of you reading it and discerning it. Yes, today's chat was amazing. All right, you guys, I'm gonna close out for the day. This has been awesome. I hope you guys will come back. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. For anybody who donated to me, thank you so much. I can't see the donations, so when I get off, sometimes I see I had donations. So if you donated, awesome. Thank you. If you didn't, that's okay too. I love you guys so much. Hit the subscribe button, get notified as soon as I'm live by hitting all notifications. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.